So as we all know, fighting and hitting are two major parts of hockey. However, for us fans, we have noticed that this has been on the decline, especially in recent years in the NHL. And you might be asking yourself why. Well, there was even this post over here basically showing the decline of fighting in the NHL, and it basically shows the average number of fights per game and how it's been decreasing basically year after year. The metric the chart uses is average FPG, or fights per game, and what I essentially did is I took the data from this post and converted it into a bar graph, which is much easier to read. So let's get into it. On the left hand over here, you have the average number of fights per game. 0.5 essentially meaning that there's a fight every other game, and so as you could see, as time goes on, fights have essentially decreased significantly in the NHL. I mean, if you look down here at the bottom, you could see, it was at 0.5 in 2010, which basically means there was a 50% chance each game that there would be a fight. However, if you look at the opposite end of things, in 2019 to 2020, that number has significantly decreased to just above 20% a game. So just from doing simple math here, you could see that there used to be a fight about every other game, whereas now there's a fight maybe, let's say, 1 every 4 games. And keep in mind, this is only in the span of a decade. So obviously, addressing the question proposed at the start of the video, well, what changed? Why is hitting and physicality and fighting as a whole, significantly decreased over time in the NHL? Now, there are two main reasons that pop out. The first being a complete change in mentality. I mean, just take in what this guy said. Anyone who watches hockey can see why this is happening. The mentality was always having at least a tough guy, if not having 2 or 3 on the team. Moreover, sometimes they would even have lines that were basically the 4th line, which had all the goons on the team, and this line as a whole would only put up maybe 10 goals as a season, whereas now you have guys on the 4th line that are a lot more skilled and putting up even 10 to 15 goals a season individually. This obviously is saying a lot about how the rosters of various NHL teams have changed over time. Back in the day, you would have guys like Ty Domi on the team, where essentially, if you look at the statistics, 1 in every 3 games he would fight on average, and in his career, he comprised over 3,500 penalty minutes, which is absolutely insane. Now, this other user comments, he had 333 fights in just over 1,000 games. This is extremely impressive for a 16-year career. And I'm not gonna lie, just to think about getting into a fight every 3 games in the NHL and not permanently, being unable to fight and getting injured is honestly, it just speaks to how tough this guy really was and what the whole mentality was back then. I mean, I don't even know any player in the NHL right now that would even think of getting into a fight every 3 games. I mean, maybe Reeves, but that's not even close. Especially when you look at what we were talking about previously when, the average for a team is about 1 in every 4 games for a whole team. And this was just one guy that was getting into a fight every 3 games. Alright, so this leads us to our second part of this video, which is why else have fights and hitting significantly decreased in the NHL? Well, simply there's no other way to put it other than the consequences are much higher. Fines are on the increase, suspensions are being handed out much more easily, especially for circumstances such as head contact. And this one guy over here kind of hit the nail on the head when he goes on to say, the league basically made a rule where if you get into a fight in the last 5 minutes of the game, you will be penalized extremely more. This obviously serving as a huge incentive to not fight towards the end of any hockey game, which obviously plays a role in not letting games get out of hand. I mean, obviously there's going to be outliers like this game played between the Dallas Stars and the Panthers all the way back in, I believe it was 2018 or even 2017, where there was like 6 fights, 138 penalty minutes, which all started from when they ran the goalie and, things just got completely out of hand. And this begs the question, will there ever be a team like the Bruins in the 90s or even the Broad Street Bullies? I mean, personally, I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. As more and more studies come out about player safety and head contact and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you gotta admit, fighting and hits as a whole, contribute to making the sport even more exciting than it already is. And I guess it just adds that other layer of physicality to the game. What other game other than MMA can you literally just drop the gloves and fight with someone? Like literally 100% fight, you versus somebody else, gloves on the floor, just trying to hit the other player in the face. But anyways, do you guys think that these new rules and, continuing to become more strict on the rules is ultimately better for the game? Or do you think they got to kind of slow down a little bit and let things happen the way they are? I'm not entirely sure. I definitely know that I like fighting and I like to see big hits, but I also don't like seeing players get injured. So anyways, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. As always, I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.